Hello and welcome to the Picture Show with Austin and Phil Rude. I am Phil Rude, and I'm the dad.
And I'm Austin Rude. I'm the son. Every week we watch a movie, and then we get on mic and we talk about it.
Indeed, we do. Been a couple weeks off.
It has been. Vacation from having to listen to you.
Wow.
I'm just kidding.
Wow.
I know.
That's what you give thanks for this year.
That's right.
That you did
Thankful
not have
for
to
silence.
You did not have to talk to me. Wow, thank you, Austin. That warms my black little heart deep in my empty chest.
Your little Grinch heart is shrunk
It
three
shrunk
times that
three
day.
sizes. Wow, that was mean.
Sorry.
Anyway, I was not ready for that. I can't lie. I want to roll with that. I want to yes and you. I can't. You completely blindsided me.
I'm sorry. I got an email that this was the Phil Rude roast episode.
No, that's next week.
Call? Oh
yeah.
My gosh. Okay. Well, we'll just have to edit that out.
You'll know when great comedians like Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart start showing up, and all the people who are on roasts for some reason.
Phil, you so crazy.
Before we get into what we have been watching and our movie for the week, I do want to shout out you and I did a guest spot on another podcast. We were on Zeng This.
We were
talking about our favorite movie of the year, I think it's safe to say.
Dune.
Yeah. It's a pretty basic overview that just consists of us kind of highlights that we enjoyed from the film, and the rest of it is us stopping Zenger from spoiling everything that is going to come in the second movie.
Because, book fans.
Because the one guy on the panel who read the book could not stop himself from trying to spoil everything for us.
And that's what makes it so fun.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to watch him get right as close as he could to dropping a spoiler and then have to walk him back and settle everything back down. It was, but it's a really fun episode. Ellie, Berg, Zenger, they're always like great hosts. I love going on and hanging out with them, and I had a really good time talking about this movie that you and I can't stop freaking talking about.
Oh, it was a blast. Yeah. And I mean, no hate, but the last time I was on there, it was the Meg.
They do, Zenger likes to torture me, but every once in a while he throws me something good to watch, so it
was a really fun time.
Yeah, it's good. Check that out. It's on the Zeng This podcast feeds, wherever you get podcasts, but it's easy to find. It's been out for a couple weeks, but it's really fun, and they're just great people that I love hanging out with.
Definitely.
Outside of Dune and rewatching Dune and talking about Dune, what have we been up to? What have you been watching?
I know nothing but Dune.
No, it's all Dune all the time.
That's it. I'm a spice
I see all of time, and it is just full of nothing but me watching Dune.
I became the Watcher, actually, from Marvel Comics. Yes. No, this week, in between rewatches of Dune, I managed to fit in a few episodes of a miniseries Netflix made. It's called The Maid, and They made The Maid? They made The Maid. It's fascinating. It really is a gripping drama. It portrays real life, and there's a whole section of dramas recently, like with This Is Us and all, like, that are trying to really like capture like what real life is kind of like, and like those soft moments. It's like that. It's the story of a woman trying to support herself after she leaves her abusive boyfriend, and she has never had a job, or she needs to take care of her kids. So it's like all this stuff that kind of like people have to deal with on a daily basis. It's a character story. Right. Those are the words I'm looking for. And it's really good. And it's called The Maid.
That's M-A-I-D.
Yes.
Not to be confused with Jon Favreau's Maid, which is about like low-level mob wannabes. Late 90s, early 2000s movie.
Yeah, if you watch that instead,
you're going to be very confused. Like, this isn't good or funny. Yeah, like
The Maid.
The Maid on Netflix. I think it was Red Letter Media was talking in the last couple of years, talking about how Netflix, theaters are all Blockbuster now. That's the only thing that people go to theaters for.
Right.
Marvel movies, big franchises, IP, and that Netflix and these streaming services are the home of what they call it, like the average, the mid-level movie, mid-budget movie. This idea of like grown-up movies, basically. I've heard like Mark Maron calls them grown-up movies,
Mm-hmm.
like a drama that is made for grown-ups, for people who want to see a film, not people who don't want to see explosions. It's not a judgment on that, but like.
Right.
This section of like adult dramas, things like Marriage Story, and I would put like Promising Young Woman in that category of these sort of, they're not big budget, they're almost like independent movies, but they are made by a studio. You know what I mean? And this is where the streaming services are winning, because they're having these really sort of compelling movies. And they have them on their platforms, and people just don't go to theaters to see them anymore.
And I think that makes sense. As much as I love movie theaters, I think the reason for that, like, there's so much action movies in theaters, and I think that's because people go there to see the explosions.
Right.
Like,
with the good sound and the big screen. And,
exactly.
Yeah.
With Promising Young Woman, I wanted to see that movie so badly.
Yeah.
And I still do, but like I didn't go to the theater to see it because
you don't need to go to the IMAX showing of Promising Young Woman to see like this kind of sad woman, who's been traumatized, and just watching her go through trying to figure out how to take control back. But yeah, like
I don't need to see that as big as a skyscraper.
Right, you can watch that at home and get the same experience essentially.
Right.
Yeah. It is interesting because it is kind of like streaming services are coming out with just sort of their own movies and their own series that are completely different than the theater experience.
Right. And they're also trying to, I've noticed, like, get as many, like, people as they can, like, demographics. They're like, it used to be TV shows are trying to be like the big thing. They're trying to be The Walking Dead. They're trying to be Breaking Bad. And now instead they're trying to be like these niche little shows so we can attract the old people and the young people and everyone who wants every little bit of thing to the streaming service.
I think that's a lot like what basic cable shows have been doing for 10 plus years. Mad Men, Breaking Bad, those are niche shows. Demographically, yes, they skew towards like white men. But I think there's more diversity across the board in cable and on streaming. So streaming is really just like an extension of cable, of like basic cable. The big but they're not like, you're right, they're not like the big network shows like CSI or Big Bang Theory that are just meant to have the broadest appeal and bring in the biggest chunk of audience, and it's all very concentrated,
right?
And none of that stuff is very good. Like,
exactly. That's why the streaming services have shows like The Boys and The Great on Hulu.
Oh yeah,
really good. Like these good shows because they're not trying to get everyone.
Right, they're taking chances and they're saying this is what we are, and if we're for you, sit down and enjoy, and if not, go. There's something for you here. Like go find
everyone.
it. Yeah,
we're all getting what we want.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting time.
Yeah. But I've noticed you watching TV a lot lately. Is there something you've been watching this week, or just rewatching?
I've caught up with Succession on HBO, which means I have watched all the back episodes and I am caught up to current, and now I have to wait week to week
Annoying.
I know. I got so into like watching a couple episodes at a time. I didn't time it right. I thought season 3 would be done by the time I caught up to it, and nope.
Nope.
But yeah, I'm caught up there, so I'm waiting week to week. I'm enjoying that very much. And Get Back. That's the other one. The Beatles documentary on Disney Plus. You don't need to hear me ramble about it because everybody's talking about it. It's great. I've only watched the first part, and that was an hour and a half. So like I'm kind of spacing it out. I am enjoying it though.
I don't know. I'm just not interested. I feel like the Beatles were always way better at music than making documentaries. I didn't expect them. Cup of tea.
I didn't expect them to come out to have this hidden documentary they made about British Parliament, but it's really fascinating.
The planet Earth picked them up. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. If just quick overview, if you don't know, it is them writing and recording the Let It Be album, and so it's basically just the cameras just rolled while they were figuring it out and watching conflicts happen as George writes the best songs the Beatles ever recorded, and all the other Beatles just shut him down constantly. But,
it's just like any other group project anyone's been in.
It is kind of like watching a big school project. It's very interesting. If you are a Beatles fan, check it out. Or if you like seeing the creative process, I think
making of.
That's what I really am enjoying about it. It's very cool to watch it happen. But yeah, people are talking about it all over Twitter, all over social media. Mm-hmm. I don't think I have anything to say about it that isn't already being said, but enjoy it if it's your cuppa.
And if not, just let it be, man. Let it be.
Well played.
Thank you.
Well played, sir. Also, YouTube check out the Sesame Street parody, Letter B.
Letter B.
by the Beatles. It's great.
All right.
Yeah.
Is that... Wait, the Beatles sang that, like, on Sesame Street?
No, it's a parody group of little puppet Beatles, like the Bugs.
Oh my gosh.
Singing a parody of Let It Be.
By the Beatles.
But it's called Letter B.
Right.
And it's all about the letter B.
Oh my god.
It's amazing. It's what I heard. Small sidetrack. I heard that song on Sesame Street before I ever heard the Beatles song. And it took me decades to hear Let It Be and for my brain to not think of the Sesame Street Letter B parody.
Oh no.
No, it's great. I don't mind at all. It's because it's just hilarious.
That's kind of like how another sidetrack.
Go for it.
I learned the Days of the Week song, but it's the Addams Family.
Days of the Week. Days of the Week.
Yeah, but now that I know like the actual Addams Family song, I'm like, no, that's not it. They're not Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for.
But there is a Wednesday.
There is a Wednesday.
There is a Wednesday Addams.
It works.
Yeah, that's the overlap. Anyway, we didn't watch the Addams Family. We didn't learn of the Days of the Week, and we did not set out to pitch a new movie to a streaming service. Instead, we watched the 1992 independent action film El Mariachi, in which a traveling mariachi is mistaken for a murderous criminal and must avoid the gang that is trying to kill him. This movie stars Carlos Gallardo as the mariachi, Consuelo Gomez as Domino, Jaime de Hoyos as Bigoton, and Peter Marquardt as Mauricio. Also, Tito Tortuga as La Tortuga.
I was gonna call you out because I don't want you to miss
that I know.
one.
I almost did.
The star of the film.
The star of the movie. This film was written, directed, edited, and produced by Robert Rodriguez, who made this film for a grand total of $7,000 1990s dollars, most of which was spent on film stock and film processing. I read a piece of trivia that said he thinks he could have, had he not had to pay for film stock and processing, he believes he could have made this movie for $600.
Like he has all the math and everything?
Well, I mean, I'm sure he had a budget, and he knows exactly how much he spent on film, and which basically I think means nobody got paid. Like, I don't know.
They all went out to dinner.
I don't know if he paid his crew on the back end, with whatever, but yeah. I mean, that's all just trivia, too, from IMDb.
That's cool, though. Because this movie is fun because it's fun to look at how movies are made.
You can kind of see it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's an indie movie, so like the rough strokes, like the thumbprints of whoever sculpted this movie are still on it.
Yeah. It's rough, but in a charming way.
Yeah, no, I think I shouldn't start out with that because then it sounds negative.
There's no avoiding talking about it. That's sort of the lore of this movie is that, holy shit, look what this guy made for almost no money. Mm-hmm. I mean, literally, it's this and like the Blair Witch Project. These are movies that are famous because they not only struck a chord with audiences, they are good and have held up over time despite being and looking cheap, being made on a budget, and then turning around and being insanely successful. It's Clerks, I would say, is another one, though that Kevin Smith did spend more on that. I mean, quite a bit more than the $7,000 that this cost.
Kevin Smith.
But he wasn't Kevin Smith at the time. Clerks was like his breakout. There was a big kind of indie movie boom in the 90s, where I think this, being early 90s, had a lot to do with people realizing like, oh, I could do this. People who wanted to make movies but weren't in the studio system, realizing like, oh, it is possible to do this on your own.
Right, and these movies show that as long as you have a compelling story, like, people will overlook the cheapness of it.
We're cutting right to it. I have a question in the show doc. What sets this apart from other low-budget movies, and why do we laugh at some cheap movies, but we hold others up high? And I think you just nailed it.
All right, well, that's our show, guys.
Okay, so I'll be back next week.
All right. But yeah, that is what I think sets this movie apart. Because I think this is unlike any movie that I've ever seen, really. Like, it doesn't feel like... And I've seen other indie movies, and We watched
Evil Dead.
Exactly.
Just a couple months ago,
The Evil Dead, cannot lay a finger on this movie. I think this movie is just... And it depends on what you're into, but I feel like this movie is so much fun to watch.
It is.
In addition to all that other stuff, that it makes it better than The Evil Dead for me.
I will say that what makes this movie good is the same things that make The Evil Dead good. And I was not the biggest fan of The Evil Dead. But when The Evil Dead was doing something right, it was doing something really right. Like, It would make a compelling scene. It could build tension. It had a couple great character moments. It was fairly well written. It wasn't executed in the greatest way. El Mariachi, I think, had all of that, and it ran throughout almost the entire movie. Like, whatever budget shortcuts they made, whatever, a guy, we commented on it while we're watching, the guy gets shot and he falls and there's blood on his shirt around the bullet hole in his shirt, but there's no blood under his shirt.
Right.
Like,
it's just
you
skin.
can see clean skin underneath it. Like, it just is that level of cheap, but it doesn't matter because even within that very cheap looking action scene, there is tension. He's waiting behind the truck with the guitar case, for the guy to come around the corner. There's all of these moving parts. And I think it's just cut together so well that it always keeps moving and it always keeps building the tension.
Yeah. I mean, I would say some of the action scenes in here are like seriously, like on the level of like, I don't know, like Fast and Furious, of in that it creates like this tension that is then
I would say it's
bringing you to the next scene.
I would put this as, and I'm not a Fast and Furious. I've seen bits and pieces of a couple Fast and Furious movies.
It was a bad example.
No.
Same.
I'm just saying, like, I think it's a good example to bring up because those are the biggest action movies outside of like the MCU. That has to be like the highest grossing action franchise, right?
I think so.
I mean,
we're on what, 9, 10 movies?
I don't know. People love them. People go to see them. But from what I've seen of action scenes, and I'll hold this to the MCU too, I think these action scenes actually are better at building tension and at being compelling to watch than these big budget action movies that tend to just sort of, we're blowing things up, we're just randomly firing guns. You know what I mean? Like when I watch an MCU huge scale fight scene, a huge battle, I feel almost nothing. It is just a sensory overload. It's like a Michael Bay Transformers thing.
Right, because you can't focus on anything.
You're not focused on any single character. These characters are just plugged into a big CGI battle. So there's no investment in anything that's going on. There's just too much. This is small scale. It's focused on the mariachi running around and the crazy aviator sunglasses gangsters, Mexican gangsters that are running around. And it's cutting back and forth between them. It's edited in this really, really fun way. He's swinging in front of school buses in a stunt that looks cheap. I'm going to just say it. It looks cheap because it is. They could only do it once and they could only get it from that one angle. But I'm more invested in that stunt, in that indie movie looking stunt, than I am in the end battle of Infinity Gauntlet. You know what I mean? Like Infinity War.
We've got a fake fan on aisle 3.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
there's just so much. I have so much more investment in this character and what's going on in this. So I think Fast and Furious is a great example because it's just showing like money doesn't equal a compelling sequence.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think one of the best scenes in this movie is probably the scene where, so there's the mariachi guy, right? And then there's the gangster who just has an empty guitar case full of weapons.
Full of guns. Right.
Right. And the scene where they've switched them unintentionally and then the gangster is stopped by the other gang.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
That there's like real tension to that, and it felt so cool. I didn't know what was gonna happen. I was fully invested in this middle school looking production, and I was like, who's gonna die? What's gonna happen?
Right.
It was so good.
Because they never show you that the cases are like that's. I love that so much because he comes in, they show him putting his case down, and then like the gangster comes in. And they don't show like the cases next to each other on the. You just have to remember. Oh yeah, the mariachi put his case down there.
Right, you put it together.
And then, like as it's unfolding, you're putting it together. You know exactly where it's going to go, but it's still great to watch it unfold. Right, you're still invested in it. That's a great example. The switched guitar cases because I mean it just trips off everything.
And even they never show. Because the gangsters open up his guitar case to reveal that it's actually a guitar, and this is not who we're after. But they never show the guitar. They just show opening the case, right? So you kind of are left. And
they never show the mariachi finding the guns in the case. You know what I mean? Like in the bar,
it's the same thing.
He opens up his case. He's like, "Who else was in here?" And then he goes out looking for him. Yeah, it's a great way, and I think that's where this movie is just well written. You know what I mean? Like it's I think where it all works the best is on the page. And then it's executed as well as he could with his limited resources. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which is still pretty good. And but I think that's the gist of it is Robert Rodriguez is capable of writing a really compelling story that's a lot of fun, that has comedy in it, despite being really dark.
And it really is, like, as well written as it is, it's such a simple story.
It is.
Like, it's just a switcheroo.
It's a mistaken identity story, yeah.
And, like, maybe if you want to add that it's a romance, like, but those are really, like, the only elements to the plot.
It's the Parent Trap if it took place in the context of Mexican drug cartels.
That's right. The guitars see each other and they're like, wait, what?
You look just like me! Yeah, it's I don't know. I don't want to just sit here and go, oh, it's great. I want to talk about what makes this movie work. And I mean, I think we get it from the very beginning. There's this real, I think the editing helps give it some style. Like there's some real like Robert Rodriguez shit in this movie.
I can tell what you mean by that because there's some weird stuff in this movie that no one else would do. And so I'm like, okay, that must be the like when the mariachi is trying to get a job and he goes to a bar and he asks if they need a mariachi and they go, we have a mariachi. And then they show a keyboard guy. But he sets up his thing, and then he plays using like 4 keys.
Yeah.
But the way they show it is this really quick, weird, sped up shot.
Yeah.
And it's just no one else would do that.
It's very cartoonish.
I can't tell if it was like playing around with like, let's just see how we can edit this thing, or if it was like, well, I'm just gonna speed it up to show like that he's doing this fast. I don't know. I
feel like there's an element of it just being sort of cartoonish and sort of Looney Tunes-ish. You know what I mean?
Like slapstick.
Yes, there's an element of this movie where I can see the mariachi is almost a Bugs Bunny kind of character who is like screwing up this gang war.
Right.
But he doesn't even really mean to be. He's just being himself and kind of messing up. Like this wrench in the works. Because there's the hotel guy who, as soon as he leaves, he grabs a phone and dials the drug dealer. Yes. And he does that really fast too. Like that's a sped up thing. There's this, and it's like a weird comedy beat that almost doesn't fit the rest of the movie, but somehow still does. It doesn't feel out of place.
Right, and there's sound effects too, aren't there, when it speeds up? Or there's something.
There's some weird effects, I think, put in place. I would have to watch it again. I don't remember.
Right, but it gets, like, the broad strokes out while still being, like, weirdly entertaining.
Yeah. There's that edit, and then the other edits I'm talking about are, like there's a lot of like gun porn in this movie. Like there's a lot of like taking the guns out in like 6 shots of a guy, like, you know, cranking the shotgun and, you know, like cut from different angles. I read a lot of trivia and it's all IMDb trivia. So take it with a grain of salt. But I did read that like a lot of those cuts were from if they screwed something up and he didn't want to reshoot the whole shot. He would just do the action from a different angle and cut it together. And that's where a lot of...
perfect.
Yeah, so he didn't have to waste film because film is crazy expensive.
Right. Huh.
But I thought that was really interesting because then it's like that kind of gave him a style that he carries forward in a lot of his other movies where it is a lot of just cool looking gunshots. You know what I mean? And, like
and looking from other angles and
yeah,
stuff.
the quick cuts. Anytime there's an action, like they're coming into the jail, it's cutting to the guys coming in. It's cutting to the guys in the cell. It's cutting to the guys waking up. It's cutting to the guy getting the gun. Like all of that stuff. And that really, I think, is part of why this movie executes so well. Not just because it looks cool, but it brings you into the action. It gets you, there's a lot of stuff happening. Bring me,
Right.
It's a great editing style that I think suits the story he was telling.
It's like, what is that effect where you like zoom in and out at the same time? It's like in Jaws.
There's
a term for the dolly or whatever.
Like the
pan. It's a something pan.
I don't know what it's called, but yes, it's essentially
The
it
background
zooms in. They zoom in the lens as they dolly away, or
Right.
vice versa.
So that your focus stays, but your background
Right.
moves forward.
You kind of zoom in on the face, or the face goes away while the background comes forward.
Right.
It's a weird. It's almost like moving two different planes in the shot. Yeah,
And the thing about that is it's basically doing the same thing as these quick, like, sped up shots.
yes,
In that it
drags you in.
It drags you in, but it's also like upfront about it, because there are shots that will like slowly zoom in and bring you in that way. But this is like we're gonna tell you what we're doing,
Right.
and kind of be in your face about it.
Yeah. I don't think they have any delusions about what they're doing. Like this movie, like Robert Rodriguez, I think is a really, really interesting filmmaker. Because he does everything so stylized, and he's, for lack of a better word, he's shameless about it. Everything he makes is over the top. From Dusk Till Dawn, the strip bar they go to is called the Titty Twister. There's nothing subtle in a Robert Rodriguez movie. It is the shotgun to the face, but he does it with such a style that it's fun. It's like Quentin Tarantino. It's why him and Tarantino are buddies, because I think their directing sensibilities are so similar. They are making they have a lot of overlap in their style and the way they want to do things. They're like, yes, nobody talks like this, but my people talk like this in my movie.
Right.
And you can either buy in and come on this fun ass ride with me, or sit it out and,
watch something else.
yeah, go. But it's and I think so much of it is born in this movie, whether he did it out of necessity or he just kind of came in with that vision of quick cuts about it.
Right. Whether or not, I think there definitely was vision there. Like, there's no question, because, like, I feel like there's not a single shot in this movie that doesn't serve purpose. And that's another reason why it stands out, even though its quality is not as good, is because, like, everything that he put in, every shot is in here for a reason.
Nothing's wasted.
He thought it out, and it all flows together.
Yeah, I think that's you see that a lot in independent movies, because every shot is expensive.
Right. You're blocking out to the max of your ability, so nothing can go wrong.
It is like you have to know what you're doing going into that shot. You have to know what you're after. And I think that is partly so he didn't have to hire somebody. He was the camera operator. He was the cinematographer. He was all of these things. He said he did not have storyboards because he didn't have any crew to show the storyboards to. It didn't matter.
Right. It's all in his head.
He knew what he wanted in his head, and that's what he went forward with. But yeah, it's a really interesting. He has a book called Rebel Without a Crew that is about the making of this movie. I've never read it, but I've always intended to. It's one of those like, I should get that book and read it. And my buddy Javier Hernandez, like a week ago, posted that he just rewatched this movie and is rereading the Rodriguez book.
Perfect timing.
But it is about how he made this movie basically on his credit cards, and made it without a crew and all of this. If you look in the IMDb credits, the lead actor, the guy who plays the Mariachi, is also listed as a producer and as a grip. Like he
Right.
did all of these different, I think he worked in like stunt coordinator, in set design. Like everybody sort of did multiple shit on this.
It reminds me of like high school drama club, because that's the kind of things that you do is, okay, you're going to play 3 parts in different wigs.
Right.
And
Right.
you're going to be the lead and also the stagehand somehow. Like they do weird things where they combine roles to make it happen.
It's it's a lot of whatever it takes to get it done kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
How many other Robert Rodriguez movies do you think you've seen?
This is my first one.
Have you seen any Spy Kids movies?
God damn it. Okay, so I have seen
Mm-hmm.
I have seen his movies. I know about the production of the Spy Kids movies. I did not know they were by him.
Yes. That's part of, I think, what's interesting about Robert Rodriguez is at times where he was able to do anything, he decided he was going to make movies for his kids. And he made those Spy Kids movies.
He also got a bunch of really famous people to star in them.
He did.
Because he just knew them and they wanted to do it.
Because, he also did a episode of The Mandalorian.
Did he now?
He did.
Which one?
Let me see. Season 6 episode of the 2nd season, The Tragedy.
Wait, The Mandalorian?
Yeah.
Season 6?
No. Episode 6, season 2.
Oh, okay. Tragedy.
The Temple on Top of the Mountain.
Oh, that's when Baby Groot gets kidnapped.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Okay.
He directed that one.
Interesting, because that's actually really surprising, because that's like finding out that Edgar Wright directed like a completely normal looking episode of Scooby-Doo. Like that is something that fits in with the style of everything.
But that's what TV is.
Going around it. Right.
TV, you can't break form. You have to come in and play by it is like Edgar Wright, why the Ant-Man thing fell apart. Like, you can't come in with your own style. It has to fit everything we're doing here.
Yeah, it's just weird to hear that this director would work on TV where you have to do that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Just because he's so stylized, like you were saying. Like
I think The Mandalorian brings a lot of people in. There's
Taika Waititi.
Waititi.
Yeah.
He did that, like, the best episode, right? The one where they find Ahsoka.
Is that the... see, I don't even know.
Yeah.
He did one in season 1, too.
Okay.
This is going to be our Mandalorian episode, too.
Yeah.
We're just going to group it in together.
Anyway, yeah. I mean, Spy Kids, From Dusk Till Dawn, Desperado. Yeah, we have the rest of this trilogy. This is kicking off our 4th trilogy, by the way. We didn't say that. This is the Mariachi trilogy.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
They'll never know.
Sin City. He made the Sin City movies. Machete with Danny Trejo. And that spun out of Planet Terror. If you've not seen Planet Terror, I cannot recommend it enough. It is so much fun.
You cannot recommend it enough, but you've never mentioned it before.
I've never mentioned it.
You
to
might
you,
have. Okay.
Maybe. Planet
but
Terror.
I've not heard of that.
Is part of the Grindhouse movies. Him and Tarantino each made an intentional B movie. They made like
purposely bad.
Like a purposely, like, this is something you would see at the drive-in. They used to make like the double feature at a drive-in or at like a Grindhouse movie theater was like, here's the real movie, and then here's the cheap movie after it. That's the second movie we got you for your.
Right.
So it would be like an exploitation movie, or like a cheap horror movie. And Planet Terror is like a zombie movie. There's a big chunk of the middle of the movie that's missing because those theaters used to like put the reels out of order or be missing one. So there would just be, did that. He made the movie to be missing this big chunk. It's brilliant how
That's
accurate.
So meta.
But it's great. It's so much fun, and it's very self-aware. Josh Brolin's in it. Michael Biehn. It's Rose McGowan. She has a machine gun on her leg, for a leg. It's just amazing, and it's so much fun. And that's what I'm talking about. Like Rodriguez being like crazy over the top, but he is in complete control of what he's doing.
Right.
Like the more budgets he got, he didn't get like. You ever see somebody who comes out with a movie, like an independent movie, and it's really raw, and then they start getting budget, and they play it safer and safer and safer as they go. Like,
sure.
Like, I feel like Robert Rodriguez does exactly the opposite, where he just is like, okay, I'm going to take this way out in left field now, and just see what he does. And I think it all started with what he was doing here, and knowing that he could, if he lost his funding, he could still make the movies that he wanted to make in some way, shape, or form.
And that's what's funny. I'm bringing it back to Spy Kids because
right. I have never seen a Spy Kids movie. I don't. You guys watch them. I don't think I ever sat down and watched one. But
that's okay. They're completely nonsensical. They really are a fever dream. There's like, you know how like Gru in Despicable Me has the minions. Well, like. The bad guy in this has like a bunch of thumb people. Like they're just thumbs that are the size of a 6-foot person.
That's great.
And they walk around with thumb heads. But anyway, like that those movies are like this movie in the way that they're cheap. You can see how they were made because
it's all like green screen shit, right?
So poorly made. So poorly made. But again, kids
love
found
them.
Themselves loving.
They made like 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah. They just made a new one. Studios never stopped.
The Shark Boy and Lava Girl came out of that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it's like its own franchise.
It really is, and it's all based off this weird, wacky style.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I lost my train of thought. You lost me at Spy Kids because I can't follow you there. But yeah, I think that you have to respect a filmmaker who, like Sam Raimi. I mean, I think there's a lot of Sam Raimi comparisons because both of these filmmakers came from independent places where they were making their own movies without studio assistance. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Evil Dead is 100%. I don't know what he spent on that movie. I don't know what the budget for Evil Dead was. But look at it. It's cheap as shit. Like,
he used his car, his friends,
right,
and probably a place he owned or someone owned.
Exactly.
That's
It is very much on the cheap. And I think Sam Raimi's an example of that, of somebody who, the more embedded in the studio system he got, the safer he played it. Mm-hmm. To the point where he made that weird Wizard of Oz prequel movie that nobody cared about.
Sam Raimi made that?
Yeah. The
Oz movie?
The one with James Franco, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Tim Burton, I think, would be another one who's sort of like, the more technology and money he got, I feel like the less imaginative his movies became.
If we're throwing in names, Steven Spielberg. Wait, is that what who directed the Ready Player One?
Yeah.
Am I thinking?
Spielberg?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But Spielberg still makes good stuff too. Yeah.
Okay. He just makes a lot of bad.
I won't hang his whole career out for Ready Player One, but
I think there's a few recently. Recent movies that I see his name attached to, I'm like, what?
Somebody said about Ready Player One when that came out, they're like, why would he agree to direct this? And someone said, because he only probably had to direct about 30 minutes of the movie, and the rest was all up to the CGI art. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
He didn't have to, it wasn't like he had to be on set for 6 months.
It was a quick, easy job.
Yeah. But yeah, back to this movie. I think that all comes out here into, like, this is what forms a kind of visionary independent director, is having to do it by yourself. And speaking of Kevin Smith, I think Clerks was a really raw movie. Like, Clerks looks good. I think he got good cameras, good, equipment. But that was a movie he made with his friends. He sold his comic book collection to pay for a lot of that.
Right.
It was back in the 90s when you could get money for comics.
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
Yeah, you won't ever understand that in your lifetime.
Comic?
Yeah.
Comic? What?
You will never understand that these things once held value. But the idea that you can make a movie with your friends and that you can get your vision across. You can actually, it's not just, you need to...
No, that's fine.
It's not just that you can finish a project. It's that you can finish a project that you set out to communicate something, and it actually came across. These were the movies that I think were doing it in the 90s. Of all the independent movies, Blair Witch, Clerks, and El Mariachi, I think these movies set out to accomplish a goal and to communicate a message, whatever it was. And they actually managed to do it. And that's why these directors landed some careers that took them places.
Right.
As we're sitting here talking about.
I feel like you wouldn't see this in any other person's first movie. Maybe that's a little naive, but the running gag with there's each bartender, the gangster asks for a drink,
yeah.
And then they will open a bottle and he wants it from the tap, or he
wants
around.
It in a glass, yeah.
Yeah.
And so they'll just drink, or no, he wants it in the bottle. That's it. They start pouring it in a glass. He goes, no, in a bottle. I want it in the bottle. So they'll just drink whatever they
right.
Pour, yeah.
But the last person he does that to is the love interest of the movie, and she's a good bartender, so she knows how to serve a drink,
right.
And she knows to give him
right.
the glass or the bottle.
The bottle, yeah.
Right. I just thought that was a clever, funny little running joke.
I mean, that's. I think you're right. I think that is the point. Is that this movie has character moments. This movie has a point of view. This movie has running jokes in it. This isn't a first-time script. This may have been the first movie he made. I guarantee you, this was not the first script he had written. This was not the first story he had told. I know that he, at one point in his life, wanted to be a comic book artist. He probably drew comics. He knew how to tell a story. Mm-hmm. And I think that really comes across. Like we said, this, I need to read a script of this because I'm sure it works great on the page. Because it just is so fully realized in the way that it comes across.
I have nothing to add to that because it's all correct.
What do you think about the actors' performances? Because these are a lot of his friends and a lot of amateur actors. So some of these...
Right.
I think the Mariachi, he has, I think I saw about 20 acting credits. The woman who played Domino, this and Desperado. Two credits.
2 credits.
And she's not even the love interest. I think it might just be a flashback in Desperado.
Interesting. I don't think the acting in this movie was bad. I don't think it was great. One of the things that I like is that when there's no famous people in a movie and you're like, oh, that's Kevin Smith.
Right.
Right.
Or
whoever it is. But you see them and you recognize them, and it breaks the immersion. There's none of that here.
Right.
And I feel like the story, like, doesn't really call for, like, super complex, like, character acting. And I think they all did, like, a really good job.
A really passable job.
Playing their role. I think a few of the smaller roles, if I had to call out someone, maybe, like, the hotel inn guy, like, was a little overacting. There were a few of those, but, like, I didn't notice anything about acting. I was just kind of like, yeah, this is people pretending, and they're doing a pretty good job.
I think it helps that it was in Spanish, too. And, like, we don't know if they were, like, stressing the wrong... You know what I mean? Like,
oh my gosh, yeah, that's true.
But, no, I would agree with that. Like you said about the not having famous people in it,
mm-hmm.
and that helping. I think also the fact that these are all... They look like real people. They're not, like... insanely, like, unhumanly gorgeous people. You know what I mean? Like,
I hate that in movies. It's the worst.
Well, get ready, because it's Antonio Banderas and Selma Hayek in the sequel. But no, like, these are all, like, attractive people
mm-hmm.
in a real person way. Like, this isn't like, Domino is an attractive woman that you would run into at 7-Eleven. You know what I mean?
Right,
like,
yeah.
Like, this is a woman who exists in the world. And I think it is like that, this idea of, like, let's cast, like, regular people, because yes, it's budget constraints, clearly, but, like, it's good to have, I was actually really surprised at the caliber of people in this movie being a bunch of non-actors who looked good on camera and could deliver lines and could commit to whatever actions. There was some silly stuff, like the girls in the bed who kept jumping up with guns and, like, you know, breaking character because they, you know what I mean? Like, stuff like that. But, like, the gangster, they keep lighting the match. The drug lord keeps lighting the match on him or on his head or whatever. And, you know, that played really well. And then at the end, he got his moment to do it back
to him, right?
And I'm like, that's good. It all played really well. Nobody like broke. Everybody had, like, one job to do. These are one-note characters, and everybody was able to, I think, pull it off really well for an indie film.
Yeah, I think everyone came together and just did their best.
Yeah, and their best was actually pretty good at the end of the day. I think this came off really well.
And I bet part of that money he saved was no wardrobe for this film.
Yeah.
Just show up in what you're wearing.
Everybody wore their own clothes. Famously, like, that was part of the Halloween production, the original John Carpenter Halloween.
Really?
Everybody had to have their own clothes. There was, like, relatively no money for that movie as well.
I think that's kind of cool.
But I think that's what's cool about indie filmmaking, man.
Well, that's that thing about, like, movies being so polished. Like, I hate when you're at the beach and you have a full face of makeup on, like,
right.
Or you're singing in this quiet soft moment where everyone realizes you have a good voice, but it's like just a robot voice. Like,
yeah,
no,
you're
like,
auto-tuned.
Yeah. That's really my thing.
Right.
Is like, if there's singing and it's a sweet moment, you have to have real singing in your movie or whatever. Or I'm not buying it.
People wake up in the morning, their hair is combed.
Oh my
their
god,
makeup's on. Like, what?
They pull the covers off and they're wearing jeans.
Yeah, they're all dressed. They got a suit on. Yeah, no, I think this is the attraction to indie film in general is the grittiness of it, the imperfection of it. Like, it's I don't know if fun is the right word, but it's there is more of an immersion, I think.
Mm-hmm. I keep thinking of Wes Anderson right now, because Wes Anderson, I found out a fun trivia fact. The animatronics that he uses, or not animatronics, like the claymation,
the stop
right?
motion,
yeah. Like, Isle of Dogs,
Mm-hmm.
the reason that their fur is always moving in every shot like it's windy is because he used real fur specifically so that it would show the imprints of the people setting it up. And like everyone was like, no, that's a bad idea. Everyone's gonna see that. And like with fake fur, you can have it all nice and perfect. And he's like, no, I don't want that.
Right.
And it's like that thing of the imperfections that make a movie beautiful.
He also recorded all the sound like outside. They would like he would do
outside instead of in a studio.
Yeah, the voice actors would be like almost like an on location kind of thing where they would go out there with a boom mic and George Clooney would like read his lines and whatever.
That's so cool.
This movie was completely dubbed as well. I remember reading about El Mariachi in the newspaper when it came out because this movie
made headlines.
People were talking about it. There was a special article in like the Sunday magazine of the Tribune one week, and I was like, I had never heard of Robert Rodriguez or this movie. It wasn't going to play anywhere near where I grew up. So I didn't see this movie for a couple of years, but it was a story about this guy who made a movie for $7,000. And he shot it on a camera that didn't have a microphone. He had no sound equipment. They had to redub the whole movie afterwards. And then
I see if I know that now and I watch it, I'm going to notice. And it's
right.
going to bug me.
No, it won't.
No? Okay.
No, because it all falls together. It just looks... It just comes out. I mean, so much of every movie is ADR'd afterwards. Like, there's something like 75% of a movie's sound is added after the fact.
Sure.
Something like that. And a lot of that is people redubbing their lines and stuff like that. Things that didn't quite come across clear enough. Okay. They'll do stuff like that. But yeah, that. And then I did read in the trivia that, like, they did English dub. And he said that cost him more than the entire production of the movie had cost.
English dub, like he paid for that, the actors did it? No,
somebody paid
he had to have a studio do that.
To have a English language dub for the American market. Because this movie, I think he wanted to sell it to like the Mexican home video market, and that was going to fund his real first movie. But then this movie kind of like accidentally took off. Like it was better than the Mexican home video market.
That's really cool, though.
Yeah.
Like,
no, it is cool. It's a great movie.
It.
And the reason I bring up reading that article about it is because it was at a time I was 1992. I was like 16, 17. But like that was really inspiring to me that. It was, I didn't go out and make a film, but the idea that you could, like you said, this is what I think the 90s indie film boom was all about, was people discovering that you could scrape together a few $1,000s and you could make a film. Even if it was a short film, you could make something. It was conceivable to do it.
Right.
And, I think we live in a time now where it's easier than ever. You don't have to buy film.
I look at all the iPhone advertising that was like, this movie was shot on this iPhone, like whatever. Like people are making
you can do it
home videos that are like quality level.
And even it's I think more affordable to buy an actual movie camera if you wanted to. It's still expensive, but it's more attainable than it was 30 years ago. You know what I mean?
And there's plus, really with the digitalization of film, like, and you don't have to pay for actual film, like that makes it way cheaper.
You can do take after take after take if you want,
right?
And it doesn't matter.
I mean, today if Robert Rodriguez wanted to make this movie, he could like film it all on TikTok. Like
you could, yeah.
I wouldn't watch.
I don't know why you would do that, but yeah. But yeah, I think I think we come out on the thumbs up side of this movie.
Oh no, I've hated it. You didn't get that from anything I said?
You're just like, no, I respect what he did. Horrible movie.
Yeah, he's talented, but I despised every second of that.
This was terrible. I really loved revisiting this movie. I had not seen it in a long time. And I really just, I had a really, really good time with it.
Yeah. I think this is my first time. This is your second time watching?
No, I've seen it a couple of times, but it's been a long time since I watched it.
This was a very fun watch, and I'm gonna watch it again
at
some point.
I think I am too. I had the option to rent or buy it on iTunes, and I should have bought it. I should have just bought it because I'm like, I am gonna totally watch this movie again. I thought it would come across more like this is a novelty of the indie film past. You know what I mean? Like,
kind of like
you watch it as a almost like a historical document of film history.
Well, that's kind of where we came out on
Evil Dead. Yeah.
Right. It's this really interesting making of, but
right. You see where a filmmaker comes from.
Right.
But you
don't... A little
bit
bit of a chore to watch through.
Right. You're like, I don't know if I'm going to watch this again. And I kind of was like, I don't know how this is aged. This might be really interesting to watch, but I don't know how often I would revisit it. And now I am like, yeah, I think I'm going to go find see if I can find I don't know if it's on Blu-ray, but see if I can find something with like some special features on it and stuff. And just, get
maybe into a whole trilogy, like box set. I'm sure
there is a Mariachi box set out there. I really, really, really had fun. I'm really glad I picked this for our fourth trilogy because, I had a blast watching this. I think this is a really well-made movie, a surprisingly well-made movie that's held up surprisingly well.
I am too. I'm shocked at how much I liked it.
Yeah.
And I also there's two more. That's so confusing to me because I'm like, this is enough. Like I can take this.
Yeah.
It ends on a like, this is the beginning of his story, and he's gonna be a drug lord now. Not a drug lord, but like he's a gangster.
He's a little bit like
a lone rider.
It's a little bit like what he was mistaken for this whole time. Of like, everybody thought he was this badass assassin, and by the end of the movie, that's sort of what he's become. It's like them thinking he was that made him that, instead of the mariachi. Now he doesn't have a hand, which doesn't factor into the other movie. Spoiler alert. But
you mean he doesn't get a chainsaw?
We're gonna we're gonna get into more similarities to Evil Dead, I think, as we go forward. In terms of like what does and doesn't matter from this movie.
Sure.
Moving forward.
That is, I will say, I am anxious about the move to the second movie because I think it's just going to be a very different, like you said, there's a different main actor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he got money. I mean, this was essentially his ticket into Hollywood. This was essentially his resume that got him an office in Hollywood and Hollywood money.
Right.
Okay, now I'm going to cast real actors. Now I have real budgets. Now I have better, like a lot of the guns in this movie are water guns. And the real guns, they had to borrow from the police department. And that was another piece of trivia. They're set up for blanks, but because they're not Hollywood guns, they couldn't block the barrel. So they could only fire one thing at a time.
My gosh.
So they had to cut away. They would show them firing, and like you'd get the muzzle burst, and then it would immediately cut away, and the machine gun sound would come in because it could only fire like the one shot to get the muzzle flash. Like,
it's funny how you don't notice that though.
No, because it's just cut together professionally, and it looks good. It was done out of necessity, but it looks really, really good. I
am hoping that the spirit of the story is continued, and that like, I'm hoping the scripts of these three movies read and flow cohesively, because I know the production value of them isn't, and I know it's gonna mess with me.
Okay.
I don't like recastings of characters. I don't like
Oh, you're going in negative already. But
I'm just saying I love this movie so much, I'm afraid of the future.
it is Robert Rodriguez has a distinctive storytelling style, both in writing and in his directing style. And
Okay.
He's behind these movies. So all I can tell you is you're getting the same director, it's just more money. It's going to look slicker. That's a lot of what the difference is.
Sure.
But I do believe, and it's been a long time since I've watched the other two movies in this trilogy too. I do believe the spirit and the actual tone, the Robert Rodriguez tone, carries throughout. We're gonna see.
Okay.
I may get to the end and go, whoa. Oh, my neck hurts from the whiplash of Johnny Depp in that third movie.
And then I'll have to just edit together those clips of you. It'll work out fine. And then
I may eat crow by the end of this, but yeah, it's let's give it a shot. Let's see where we come out.
I'm not saying the movie's gonna be bad.
I get what you're saying.
I'm gonna try to go in optimistic.
I mean, look at Evil Dead again. Look at the varying quality between each movie.
Sure.
He got a little more money. Each movie he got a little better effects. He got a little different tone.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little tweak on everyone. And those movies aren't cohesive at all, but somehow it's a trilogy.
Somehow.
Wherever we'll see. Like I said, I'm revisiting these. It's been a long time. I bet it's been since Once Upon a Time in Mexico came out, whenever probably at least 10 years ago. And that's probably the last time I watched any of these movies. So I'm revisiting this too, and I'm really curious to see how well these movies link together as well.
I guess we'll have to see.
So I'm looking forward to it. I had so much fun with this one. And I do remember I used to watch Desperado quite a bit, and Desperado's a really fun movie. It's a lot slicker. And Danny Trejo.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, you do.
I'm sure I do.
Yeah, everybody knows. Look him up. Everybody knows Danny Trejo. Let's close this out before we just talk forever. Let's go to shoutouts. What do you got this week?
All right. This week I am shouting out a TikTok channel. It is called Joel Cossette Music. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. Joel.
Cossette.
Yes, it'll be in the description. But Joel is a musician, and his channel's he calls himself emo pop, and he's got a lot of covers and a few originals, and also he has a series of a few videos where he writes songs with his daughter that are very silly and very cute and just a whole lot of fun. And that's how I found him. And then I found that he has these other really good videos where he just sings, and it sounds really nice. So that's Joel. He deserves for you to go check him out.
He deserves it, huh? He deserves my attention?
He deserves your attention. But come back for me, because I want more attention.
Oh, I've seen this guy before.
Have you?
Yeah, he's come across my feed.
Good.
I get a lot of music stuff, so...
He probably, because I follow you, he probably showed up on my TikTok because of you.
There's all kinds of weird algorithm connections where, your mom and I will see the same video, a day apart.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
but that's Joel.
Joel Cossette Music. Cool.
It's exciting. What do you got?
I got a company that is a little different from what I usually shout out, but I shouted them out on Twitter the other day, and I want to do it here because I've liked this product for a long time, and I like what they stand for. This is Dave's Killer Bread. Dave's is they were a smaller bread company. They make really great, whole grain bread.
Like loaves of bread?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like bag bread. It's in the grocery store. It's getting easier and easier to find. I think they're getting in more and more markets. But it's just really like good bread. And first and foremost, that is what I like about them. I think they have a great product. But the other thing that I love about them, almost as much as I love eating bread,
is that they murder people.
They are, speaking of crime, they are a second chance employer. And that is part of their business philosophy. They do hire ex-felons. They do hire ex-addicts. They hire people regardless of their past. On their website, I think their mission statement is somewhere along the lines of, we want to hire the best person for the job without considering past indiscretion. You know, that means like, oh, you would be the best person for the job, but you have a felony on your record and we don't hire, you know, like so many companies say that they don't discriminate, but we all know how that really works. And I think the fact that ex-convicts have a hard time finding employment is why so many ex-convicts go back to crime. I think
a lot of people have no sympathy for ex-convicts.
It's exactly right.
It's disheartening to see you brought this on yourself. Now help yourself up. But I'm going to make it as hard as possible.
I'm going to put up roadblocks anyway. Yeah. I love that this is a company that is growing and getting bigger, and that this is part of their statement, and they really do it. There are testimonials and people on their websites who are like, I am, you know, a marketing director. I'm just pulling that out. I'm not calling out anyone specific, but they will tell their story about, this is where I was, and I turned my life around, and Dave's bread gave me a chance. So I just think they're a great company. I think they have a great business philosophy, and I think they have a great product, and they're actually doing something ethical, which is something that we don't see near enough of in business in America.
Yes, I definitely like supporting businesses that it's a good product, but also, you know, I feel less guilty for buying.
It's a win-win for buying Dave's Killer Bread. So I will have their website on here, but really just go to your grocery store and buy their product. Support that company. On that note, we want to thank you for listening to this episode of The Picture Show with Austin and Phil Rude. If you enjoy our show, please leave a review on your podcatcher of choice. It helps our visibility. It helps us grow the show.
That's right. Another way to help us grow is to tell a friend. Now, you have to be careful.
Or an amigo.
Yes. To find your amigo, you have to be careful. There's a lot of lookalikes.
That's right.
And you're not going to want to switch the message of don't listen to The Picture Show.
Yeah, I was carrying my microphone around in its case the other day. And we almost couldn't record this episode because I got it mixed up.
Hang on, is that why we're recording?
We're recording.
On a gun?
We're speaking into a gun right now. Yes.
Well, if anyone hears this, hi, you're magic. Because I don't know how that works.
I don't know how you got inside that gun, but
but I will find you.
I will get you out of there. Next week's movie, we are watching Desperado. We are watching the sequel to El Mariachi. I believe if you're listening to this as this comes out, I believe it is still on Netflix. So, Desperado and Once Upon a Time in Mexico, both there. Please watch along with us. Rediscover these Robert Rodriguez gems with us. And do go watch it. You'll have to rent it. Go watch El Mariachi. It's great. It's a really, really fun time. It's a really fun movie.
It is so worth it, even if you just buy it for a few bucks on like YouTube or something. Like, it is really fun to watch.
Check it out. This is an oddity that I think a lot of people is a blind spot for a lot of people because it doesn't hit streaming services. It doesn't circulate the way a lot of movies do these days.
Right.
But seek it out. I think this movie's really worth it. Oz, what's your social media?
I do have social media. I am on... That's not what you asked, but too late.
That's right.
I am on Twitter.
Speak into the gun, please.
Okay. I am on Twitter. You can find me at Austin N. Rude, and you can find me at Old Who Review. Nothing else. Don't look into that. Old Who Review.
That's it.
Nothing else.
Okay.
What are you?
I am philrude.com. I'm also at philrude on Twitter, at philrude75 on Instagram. Boss, you want to read the credits?
Yep. We did it all ourselves, just like Robert Rodriguez.
That's right. There you have it. We'll see you next time on The Picture Show.
See ya.
We are like indie filmmakers, aren't we?
Oh my gosh. I think we're the greatest creators of all time.
Probably. If that were true, I would have thought of that gun bit way earlier in the show.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
That's why you've got me.